Evening, y'all. How's it going? Welcome to another Lockdown Live chat. Another new month, still digging deep into new bands, new talent that has kind of been exposed during this pandemic, global disaster that we're experiencing now. As usual, here to unpack all of this, my co-host, the notorious Mr. Alec Lyle of Dracona Media. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's all good. It's a little bit colder tonight, which is it's fine. And yeah, I'm wrapping up another album, so that's also cool.
It never ends. Never ends with you. Yeah, but I guess that's kind of a great segue to our guest because we're always talking about new talent when it comes to you. You're always digging deep into different genres. Today, we're pulling things over to PE, Port Elizabeth. I don't know the new name for the place, so sorry for not being politically correct. But yeah, today we're joined by guitarist / vocalist and actual instrumentalist, Matt, and Justin, all-round shredding percussionist of Ghast, hardcore death maniacs, but lovely oaks.
That's
What an
very
intro.
kind. Thank you.
How's it going?
So glad we could actually make this happen. We actually did a little bit of a review, 6 months of SA Metal in review a couple of months ago, and the album Dawn that you guys put out just basically like smashed my ears immediately, and I was like immediately intrigued. So I'm so happy that we could actually make this happen.
Yeah, man, we did see that video that you guys did, and we very thankful for how kind you were in what you said about it. It was really amazing to hear. Obviously, we don't really get all the exposure or hear a lot of what people think about it, so it's always really cool to have people, especially who are passionate about at least the local music scene, especially, like, to hear their thoughts on it. So it's really, really awesome. You guys, thank you so much. It was really, really kind of you.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, like, as we mentioned, you guys pretty much busted out, like, knocked down the doors from the get-go. But we usually start these conversations at the beginning of the lockdown. This kind of doesn't apply to you guys since you guys kind of came into fruition during the lockdown. So I guess kind of how did the whole idea come about during the pandemic? How did you guys all meet, decide on the sound, all of that good stuff? Maybe Matt, we'll kick this off to you.
Yeah.
Originally, our vocalist Clint and I were fooling around. It was almost prior to the lockdown. We were just sharing ideas. He was going to do drums on something. I was going to do guitar vocals. And then we started hanging out with Justin as well. And then once lockdown happened, we were going to do like a 3-track EP where we were just going to get some ideas. And we convinced Clint to do vocals because he's really like, Justin and I since 2012 have been wanting to be in a band with Clint behind vocals. So we convinced him, and then we convinced Justin to get drums again. And then what turned from a 3-track, like it was just like a COVID 3-track EP, ended up being a full-blown album, because the more we wrote, the more we enjoyed it. And then we wrote more songs. And then
I don't know if we is really fair to say, because when I eventually agreed to join, because I hadn't played drums for a long time, Gracie just rocked up the one day, because a 3-track EP went to a 5-track. So I was like, okay, cool, that's rad. And then he just rocked up the one day with like another 5 songs. So it really just threw a bit of a span in the works as far as our initial expectation was. But yeah, stoked to have stuck it out for the 10 tracks.
Yeah, it just, there was no thinking, there was no actual but I wouldn't say that it was no artistic goal, but there was definitely no expectations on ourselves for what we wanted to do. We just wanted to have fun with the songs, and the more songs we wrote, we were happy with. And then eventually we just actually said, okay, well, we're going to stop here and see if we can actually figure out how to produce this and record it now. And then that's where the after all the writing came in, was where we taught ourselves how to mix and get this done. And it ended up being an album, kind of. That's what we think of it.
Awesome. Can you maybe also tell us a little bit about, like the band name, where you guys got it from, like the little bit of the origin story around that?
Sure. So I've been trying to figure out something that is where it captures the dark, aggressive, like sinister tone, but like isn't that too theatric, like a name that has like a verb or something. It's more of an entity. So we thought of like a Ghast being this like dark Lovecraftian creature that is it's just harrowing and unhappy and just melancholy. So the name resembles like the entropy we envision of man, and so we thought like it would be a cool name to kind of urgently say what we mean, being dark and I guess fast or something. That was the feeling of it.
Well, also including the hours of Bloodborne that we play together online just to survive like isolation, with that having heavy Lovecraftian influence as well. So all of that kind of together, just the mental state that we were in at the time, and also just what lyrically what the songs say. We felt it tied together fairly well.
Yeah, like it's like trying to make sure that it isn't too like fantasy related as much as it is like occultish. So we wanted like the middle ground between something that would be fantastical but still like evil in a way. So that's like the whole, like, because we obviously theming it around the entire like collapse, like environmental and political collapse around us, but it's we're trying to make it not as blatant, and that's why we're using the whole like occultish, like fantastical theme with it.
Interesting. It's
Cool.
nice that you guys kind of add a little bit of a spin on the hardcore sound aesthetically also then. But I guess kind of that acts as a nice little segue to the question that I had, and I guess it's kind of something that both of you guys can answer. We've interviewed quite a few hardcore bands that have come out and have been going for a few years and really been picking up quite a bit of steam in the South African market. Matt, you did actually mention that you guys didn't really have, any preconceived ideas really going into this, but essentially like the motivation of going into and actually starting a hardcore band, which is obviously it's popular, but it's still a micro niche in the metal scheme. What was the motivation of like going like specifically both of you guys into the hardcore sound?
I think that's more about what the band members are interested in. Like, I mean, like Justin and I, if you could say, like, when we write, it is kind of a marriage of like metal and hardcore, where I'm more interested in, just like that it's actually more punk. I think I know very little about hardcore in like bands and stuff. I'm more of like a 90s punk person, but I like angry music and I like fast music, and Justin and I both enjoy listening to music, but we enjoy listening to different kinds of music. So we kind of marry the ideas that we have. And when we sit down and write, particularly with the new stuff we're doing as well, we don't say like, oh, we need a hardcore part or we need a metal part. It's more, what really works with the idea of the song, and can we enjoy playing this? And that's where the hardcore element comes in. It's with the enjoyment. So like the pushing ourselves would be more the metal side of the music, because I'm myself, like, I'm not a guitarist really. I just have an 8-string that I hit against the desk. So the metal is like it's we're trying to find a sweet spot where we take it seriously but don't take ourselves seriously, and I guess that's where my opinion of the hardcore metal like bridge is. It's the kind of middle ground between the two genres.
Yeah, for me it was kind of strange really. A lot of parts in the album, I've never really played things like that because I've never really been all that interested or paid that much attention to hardcore. So it was really Gracie's writing that kind of pulled my interest towards that. My major influences always span from, a cross between like August Burns Red, Periphery, and Lamb of God, something like that. And then also some more like deathcore kind of bands. So for me, it was a lot of new water. I never really, as I say, spent time exploring that kind of music. So picking drums back up again, and then also kind of going into something that was fresh was a very new experience. So I think our interpretations and our vastly different influences in some points, we managed to some degree to kind of put something together that was fun, I guess. That I think was the main idea behind it.
And a lot of Black Dahlia cloning, as always. I think him and I, like, our favorite band, like if we have a band that bridges the two of us, is the Black Dahlia. And like that. So obviously we don't really write like the Black Dahlia Murder, but that ethic is like kind of what we like in the music, is just to make it as fun and as enjoyable for the people to play it, like for us to play it.
Awesome. Let's talk about your debut album, Dawn. You guys mentioned that you went like DIY and you decided, cool, you wanted to, record this music that you had written. Maybe let's unpack that process. Like how did you guys go about it? You mentioned an 8-string, also live drums, program drums.
So with Dawn, unfortunately for us, because we were stuck in flats for lockdown, it was all sampled drums. But what we did was we basically I had like an array of drums that I used for a band called Empty City when I was writing with them, and I wrote these new drums like it was a lot heavier, a lot more black. Actually, it was like a lot more black metal orientated, because I wanted to go like a Death Heaven, but like really angry and darker. And I had those drums with the Matt Halpin kits, and then I was like, this is cool, like I want to write to this. And then I had this, like, this is like the Ibanez Geo of 8 strings. I don't know what it is, I don't know how it works. I only play 4 of the strings on it. I had this 8-string, and I've been playing it for a while, and I really couldn't get like a tone out of my amp here and out of like VSTs that I could really like. So what I did was I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to drop it to E. And if it sounds sludgy, that's fine. I'm just going to try my best to like write tracks to this. And that actually kind of gave that whole like, I guess it's like a Omar biscuit and coffee kind of sound, where it's like crunchy and like, I don't really want to rate the tone because it's not really, there was no thought behind it. But that's where like it got more darker the more I was tuning this thing lower, trying to make it sound like something audible. And then I got to drop D, which is two semitones down from what the album ended up being. And I was like, cool, all right, now I listen to this. And then Justin was like, that sounds great, but how the fuck are we going to do that? And then, so Nihilus was written in drop D. And then from there, everything was kind of centered around that tuning. So the drum tone had to change, like from that whole light drum Death Heaven kind of vibe to something a little bigger. And that's where the journey for like production came, like where we like sat down and kind of step by step, you tried to figure out how to produce an album from beginning to end. So like I knew how to like mix vocals from doing it by myself in China, but I never had done like a full album by myself. So that was, and I mean, it didn't come out the way we entirely wanted, but like the attitude of what we were writing at the time did come, at least with the 8-string, because that's what it was centered around, really.
Cool.
Sure. Well, I think Alec. Yeah,
sorry, I just wanted to follow that up just while we were on the writing side of things. In terms of writing, how did you guys as a band sort of write? Maybe I know Matt, you probably did the majority of the writing, but how did you get the guys to collaborate? Was it through software like Guitar Pro or like?
Yeah. So we I would come with an idea, for a track for the album, and then I would give it to Justin, and it usually is quite like, how do I say this? Like I would write a song with Justin and then give it to Justin, and Justin would then kind of like rhythmically like open it up, because I have quite a static interpretation of drums. I think like I want them to be like very disciplined and honed in. I don't want it to like open up the song. And then fortunately he comes in and kind of like writes, and that kind of rewrites the drums, and it informs what happens with the guitars. So I mean Justin can explain what he does with the drums a little bit better than I do, because I have no fucking clue.
Basically Gracie comes up with the skeleton idea for the songs, predominantly. And then from there, it becomes a bit of a conversation, really, which is quite cool. What he writes initially isn't necessarily what I hear or what I feel should be in there. So once that kind of happens and I put that in, then, you know, it becomes more of a discussion of the next part and the next part, you know. So it kind of builds from there with bass ideas. Sometimes the bass ideas we use, so other times it changes completely. So it just depends on what feels good at the time, what vibe we're feeling for the song, like where we think it should go. I think a lot in Dawn, what we ended up doing was quite manic. So we were all kind of in the same frame of thought with that, I think. So we were speaking the same language, like musically, I think, as far as the writing for the album is concerned.
And scale wise, like the tone and the like the whole, because this is the first like time I've written in this kind of key where it's like very, I don't know the musical theory or like formally what you would describe it as, but like what was cool is that Justin and I both really liked like the whole pitch of the album and how it ended with Penance leading in this more like melodic sound. So we kind of used, we would take each song and at the end of it say, okay, like what story follows this track in terms of a sound, not necessarily lyrically, because the lyrics was the hardest part of the album, which because we did it last. But it did, like, that's how our writing process was to like take a skeleton, Justin opens it up with the drums, and then to kind of you know, polish some parts that need some polishing.
Cool.
Sure. Yeah. All right. One last thing when it comes to the drums, Justin. Like you guys said, you kind of bounced the ideas back and forth. Obviously, like Matt said, I called when I heard the drumming on the album, I thought of it more as a controlled chaos. Like there was a lot of frenetic energy to it, but it did feel quite organic. In terms of actually like playing this stuff out live with the band, you pretty much have all of that in mind, or will the band let you ad lib little, you know, loop changes on the fly live?
But if you're asking me if I'm going to add extra stuff, definitely not. There's a lot to do already. But yeah, I was very pedantic in the writing of making sure that this can physically be done, because I think when people program drums, sometimes they get a little bit carried away and they forget that, you know, you can't strike twice in your left hand at like 127 velocity or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. So
and this entire lockdown was worth it to watch this guy play Newton Park Bible Burning for the first time. Because when what is it, 230 BPM, and we both sat at the PC when we were writing this, going like, oh, this is gonna suck live. Like this is gonna really suck playing.
Yeah. But it's what the song needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, yeah, thanks. I take that as a compliment actually, because I know I'm quite orderly as far as I structure things. So I did try to make things quite frenetic while at the same time having like some kind of structure to it, to like actually have a song to be like audible as far as a listening or agreeable as far as a listening experience is concerned. But as I said earlier, with regards to the influences and things like that, hardcore isn't really anything that I've ever listened to. I don't know if this is hardcore drumming. I don't really know what to associate it to. It just, I think what we really fell into a lot of the time is that when the guitar goes twang, like I hit the kick drum, something like that, you know. So in that, try make something interesting, and yeah, it's just fun and some unexpected parts, hopefully, that people might not expect or something like that. But yeah, just try and make it interesting, really, because you know, when the guy admittedly only plays the 4 strings, you know, you got to try to figure out how to make it a bit more interesting.
We are definitely not selling this well.
Well, let's kind of try to put a little bit of a bow on the whole production side. We've covered all the amazing instrumentation that goes into this band. as far as it goes, the final mix down to mastering process. Once you guys had actually settled on, okay, this is the material. How long was the whole process to kind of wrap up the actual recording to master?
This is just turning into a shit show. So like,
can I answer this?
Yeah, okay, Justin can answer this.
So basically what happened is I was at Gracie's place one evening just trying to finish the drums, and it had been quite an ordeal, quite a long experience. So, you know, with the joy of programmed drums, you know, you double click a lot and place things and whatever. So when I felt like I double clicked for the last time, I felt like we needed to celebrate a little bit. So we ended up having some drinks, and at some point of the night, I got tired and went to bed, and this dude carried on with a bottle of whiskey and decided to master the album until like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I didn't see him for like 2 weeks afterwards.
I like missed work and like threw up until 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Like it was the most PE way of like mixing an album. Like it was just like there was obviously some discipline to the mixing process. Like I sat down and tried to figure, because I was mixing in a room that was like this old PE house that had high ceilings and, you know, a lot of like refraction and stuff. So when the mastering process came, I was so grateful. I was so deaf, actually. Like my ears, like I think I'll have tinnitus for life after this album. And like, yeah, so the mastering process was at about 2 a.m. I was like, yeah, that sounds fat. At about 3 a.m. I was like, what is this computer doing? And then at 5 a.m. I was just like, yeah, okay, this is a bit of limiter, yeah. And yeah, so, but there was some thought up until about 4 a.m. and anything after that, like, you know, I've had guys tell me like, what happened here? And like, like 3 minutes into Newton Park, like just the snare, there's just like there was like a like a change of snare, like mixes, like what automators went crazy and the compress. I was just like, I don't want to know, like, because we spent a lot of time, because there was a lot of learning in terms of how to mix this album. I was like by the time I'd work, obviously I woke up very ill and sick, and because I stopped drinking during COVID because I was just like, there's no time. And then that's what, like, you know, that's the end product was Jamison and like 6 months of going deaf. That is the mixing process.
That's awesome. That is, like you say, that sounds very much like the PE way. Taking it back.
I'm so sorry.
Taking it back to the sort of PE way. I've only actually been to that beautiful city once, and it was to play a live show right before lockdown. So you guys are obviously very starved for live shows, and you have 2 venues, I think, like 2 decentish venues.
I don't think we have any at the moment, actually.
Well, you had.
Yeah,
you had Pool City. So do you guys ever envision, or how do you envision playing this music live? And like, because I can imagine, I mean, one of the best shows I've ever played was at Pool City Blues, because, you know, you guys get so little metal down there that like it seemed like every single metalhead in PE was there. Whereas Joburg or Cape Town, like there's so many metal shows that, like, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, as far as that's concerned, there is like what seems to be an everlasting kind of group of people around town that, you know, they're at every show, like, which is amazing. But as far as how we plan to kind of roll shows out, I think Gracie would probably be best at explaining that.
Yeah, I'm like the raging communist in the band. So like I hate business. So anything that's to do with money makes me like uncomfortable. So shows are like the worst thing because it always involves like bars and entrance and all that stuff. but so the show vibes like here, I mean it's kind of hard to tell because like our idea actually is to let it grow as fast as it has to instead of trying to like throw ourselves onto a stage somewhere. So we've been really working a lot on our live show in the studio here to kind of make sure that like what we play can be played in a venue of 50 people, and then move from there. How do we mix this for 100 people, or if it gets to that? I mean, I'm even being optimistic at 50 here, but like the idea is to host either in a really small intimate bar or a house, and, you know, see where it goes from there. If people are keen to come, we'll host more shows. But the idea is not to do it frequently, to make sure that like the set list is really as fresh as possible when we go up, because we've both played in bands. We played in the same band before where we just recycled songs, and like we're part of the thing that like made PE like dip, because there was no like emphasis on writing and performance and publishing music in a way. So our idea is to play only in PE until we get like support from the Bay, and then once we're happy, like where we feel that we've put a lot of effort into trying to do shows wherever, and we'll play at any like bar, as long as there's like an agreement that this is for the music, because I think that's what's actually killed a lot of our scene, is that it lost that whole focus on the scene itself, like the art of like heavy music in the Bay. Because like, I mean, when I arrived here, there was so much music, like there was couldn't keep up with how much music there was. And I think that like there was a divorce at some stage between the live show and the venues, and I think maybe COVID killed that completely. Who knows? I don't know. I've been in my room writing this album. so yeah, that's the idea for the live shows for now.
Yeah,
cool.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I guess as we kind of start to wrap up this awesome chat, there is one or two things that we can combine into one topic here. Your guys' artwork for the album, along with the fact that being hardcore, being from PE, you guys are DIY at its best. You have quite a nice array of different merch, and as well as like a badass digipack of the album. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that, the artist, and yeah, who came up with all of that.
This is more of Gracie sitting with too much time in his hands in his room and finding people online and coming up with ideas about stuff that he likes buying from other bands.
like I'm a world's biggest fanboy. Like I actually only do this because I like to like meet other people who play music. Like so I like the artwork. Again, we were looking for something like that was dark and simple, that we could both like use as album arts to reflect like literally the whole theme of the album is like the son of the dawn. Like I'm gonna stop it there, and the whole like idea was to show like the decay of man, like completely gone, and then there's just like whatever comes to cleanse us remains. So the guy's named Alfie Sulvi. He's a dope artist. He's from Indonesia, and he also, and then basically I was looking for artwork just for merch designs, and I was struggling to get like art from the Bay. We've got art from the Bay for the next few stuff that we're doing. We'll announce that when it's ready. But yeah, so he got this design for us, and then I was just like, no, I don't want the red, I don't like the blood. And then I thought, well, the whole theme is like like opulence is our decay, so gold could be the blood that bleeds from us because we're now completely soulless. So then the skull bleeds blood, and then the crow's rising with the dawn, and we're like lacquer, and then there's like a Luciferian symbol in the middle of it because yeah. you know what's up. And yeah, and then I actually was super keen. Like I had cash ready for the vinyl. Like that was something I was really keen on. I got the digipacks really quickly. That was cool. Like it was a learning experience on how to get it done. So now I like want to like help other bands do it and see how like it can be feasible, because I think a lot of the time you don't know how much it costs until you actually go ahead and like just email people and get it done. But unfortunately, because of COVID, like I was just ghosted by every vinyl presser in the country and outside the country as well. Like I actually even went to Ireland and got all the guys there. I was like, yo, it's like, let's get it printing. People have pre-ordered. Let's go. And then they were like, yeah, COVID. So apparently COVID killed all the wax producers. And, now we don't have vinyl for the next 30 years, maybe, I don't know, like something happened.
Yeah.
So we've wrapped this up really nicely, and I think it's been a great chat to have with you guys, and we really appreciate you taking time out to talk to us. Is there anything that you would like to plug before we wrap this up nicely? New music, new merch, new anything?
Yeah, man. We are actually, but there's two things I'd like to mention actually. As far as new music's concerned, we are looking to do a split release with Boiling Point, another local band in the Bay Area. We've done most of our writing. I think we're actually spilling over to a new album at the moment, actually, even. So things are going really well as far as that's concerned. Sometime in September, we're going to meet up together. We're going to do some joint tracks as well. I hope that's what we're planning to do. So we're really looking forward to doing that. Just as far as what's the word? Just as a joint kind of project, get a bit of a vibe going again between people and just people who love writing metal and music.
And then we have a track that's like an EP of sorts that we're doing with Inkwell Studios, the tattoo studio here. So we got like, it's a black metal-y long number that I've kind of had the idea of doing a collaborative project. So we'll see when that comes out. It's all depending on how quick we learn how to use the studio we have now.
Yeah. Speaking of, the second thing that I wanted to mention is we are really interested in collaborative projects. So what we've done is we have built and put a studio together. People can come and record live drums. I've got a soundproof room here. We've got things set up. So if anybody is interested, whether you're in the Bay or not, we would love to have a chat. Yeah, we just want to get involved in music, man, regardless of genre predominantly.
Come play drums in Justin's sweatbox. It's got an aircon now.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man, we just want to start the conversation again. Everything has become so stagnant around not only PE but South Africa and around the world. So if anybody's interested, we've got a vocal booth, we've got a soundproof room. You can, it's something that we're really looking forward to. So if you have any interest in something like that, please don't hesitate to get hold of us. And if you do want to, you can via direnoise.com.
Awesome. Yes, we will include all the links and all the ways for people to reach out. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. Alec, what do you say? Are we done for another week?
Definitely.
I feel we've delved deep into hardcore or something, or at least 4-chord structures. Either
Dude,
way, it's been an awesome week.
We don't
Guys,
know what it is
thank
either.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been awesome. We will definitely have you guys back. And yeah, thank you to everybody that tuned in. We will be back same time, same place on the interweb next week. And yeah, just don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because that does help. And yeah, just keep supporting local metal, keep supporting local music, and we will see you guys soon. Take it easy, guys. Laters.
Boss, cheers. Thanks, guys.